I tried to stay silent, but your closeness to them is a blade slicing my quiet. Watching you with them steals the breath my silence fought so hard to keep. My silence screamed your name, but you only heard the noise of their laughter. I was silent, but your love for them turned my heart into a sacred battlefield. You chose them, leaving my silence to echo with the weight of what we lost. I stayed silent while my soul shattered, watching you smile for someone else. Your hands in theirs erased the silence I believed was unbreakable between us. I tried to stay silent, but the sight of you with them burns a holy fire inside. Watching you with them is a quiet wound, bleeding through the silence I held. My silence was a prayer whispered in the dark, now drowned by your absence. I was silent, but your joy with them is a thunderstorm inside my fragile heart. You laugh with them, while my silence becomes a cage I cannot escape. I stayed silent to protect us. Your love for them shattered every vow. Your closeness to them is a silence louder than the screams I never voiced. I tried to stay silent, but jealousy burned through my quiet with relentless fury. Watching you with them is a sacred grief hidden in the quiet I never escaped. My silence was my armor, but you pierced it with every stolen glance you gave. I was silent, but inside I screamed at the sight of you with someone else. You chose them while I stayed silent, breaking into pieces no one will see. Watching you with them is a slow death, whispered in the silence I tried to keep. I stayed silent, but your happiness with them is a storm wrecking my soul. Your touch on them is a silent betrayal I carry like a wound no healing can reach. I tried to stay silent, but the ache of you with them burns endlessly within. Watching you with them is a quiet heartbreak wrapped in the sacred silence of loss. I was silent, but your absence screams louder than any words. I never spoke. You smiled for them while my silence screamed the truth I was too afraid to say. I stayed silent, hoping you'd return. Now silence is the only thing you left behind. Your hands in theirs tore through the silence I missed. I tried to stay silent, but the sight of you with them steals my breath every time. Watching you with them is a ghost story whispered in the hollow silence of my heart. I was silent, but the jealousy inside me roared like a wild, sacred beast. You chose them, leaving my silence to echo with the pain of forgotten love. I stayed silent, but your laughter with them shattered the peace I begged for. Your closeness to them is a silence that suffocates the love I tried to hold. I tried to stay silent, but the weight of your love for them crushed my soul. Watching you with them is a sacred wound bleeding through the silence I guarded. I was silent, but inside my heart was breaking in the loudest kind of quiet. You smiled for them while my silence screamed a story no one will ever hear. I stayed silent to protect us, but your love for them broke every sacred vow. Your hands in theirs are a silent scream haunting every quiet breath I take. I tried to stay silent, but the ache of seeing you with them never fades. Watching you with them steals the peace my silence fought so hard to keep. My silence screamed your name, but you only heard the sound of their laughter. I was silent, but your love for them turned my heart into a battlefield. You chose them, leaving my silence echoing. I stayed silent while my soul broke, watching you smile for someone else. Your hands in theirs, a silence I believed was ours alone. I tried to stay silent, but the sight of you with them burns a holy fire inside me. Watching you with them is a quiet wound, bleeding through the silence I kept. My silence was a prayer whispered in the dark. Now, drowned by your absence, I was silent, but your joy with them is a thunderstorm in my fragile heart. You laugh with them while my silence becomes a cage I cannot escape. I stayed silent to protect us, but your love for them shattered every vow. Your closeness to them is a silence louder than the screams I never voiced. I tried to stay silent, but jealousy burned through my quiet with relentless fury. Watching you with them is a sacred grief hidden in the quiet I never escaped. My silence was my armor, but you pierced it with every stolen glance you gave. I was silent, but inside, I screamed at the sight of you with someone else. You chose them while I stayed silent, breaking into pieces no one will see. Watching you with them is a slow death, whispered in the silence I tried to keep. I stayed silent, but your happiness with them is a storm wrecking my soul. Your touch on them is a silent betrayal. I carry like a wound no healing can reach. I tried to stay silent, but the ache of you with them burns endlessly within. The silence I kept was a slow poison. Watching you with them is the final sting. I tried to stay silent, but jealousy is a language my heart cannot translate. You wear their smile like armor. I wear silence like a wound that never heals. My silence was a fortress. Your closeness to them is the siege I couldn't survive. Watching you with them is the echo of a love I was too afraid to fight for. I held my silence like a secret. Now it's the loudest truth I live with daily. Your warmth on them is the cold I never escaped, wrapped in endless silence. I tried to stay silent, but every moment you share with them steals my breath away. Silence was my gift to us. Watching you with them is the curse I never wanted. I was silent to keep peace. Now I'm a war zone watching you love someone else. Your closeness to them is a shadow in my silence, a ghost I can't outrun. I stayed silent, but my heart screamed the truth you never chose to hear. Watching you with them is a silent scream etched deep into the bones of my soul. My silence was a fragile thread. You unraveled it with every touch you gave to them. I tried to stay silent, but the sight of you with them stole my entire world. Your silence was louder than any fight. I was silent, hoping you'd return. Now I am silent, knowing you never will. Watching you with them is a quiet heartbreak that no words can ever soothe. I stayed silent for us. You stayed silent for someone else, and I broke alone. Your hands in theirs tore through like a sacred promise. I tried to stay silent, but love's silence turned into the loudest form of betrayal. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. I was silent, but the ache of watching you with them shattered every quiet hope. Your laughter with them echoes in my silence, an unbearable symphony of what I lost. I held my silence close, but seeing you with them ripped my soul into fragments. My quiet love became a scream. Only the void answered while you walked away. You choose them while I stay silent. Drowning in the loudness of my own heartbreak, watching you with them feels like a prayer, unanswered, a sacred silence turned to ash. I tried to stay silent, but my heart broke louder than any words I never spoke. Your smile for them is a shadow that devours the silence I swore to keep. I stayed quiet, hoping you'd come back. Now silence is the only thing you left behind. Watching you with them, I'm a ghost chained by silence to a love that never was. I was the silence you ignored, the wound you never saw. As you slipped away, the silence I held was a fragile breath. Now watching you with them seals it forever. I tried to stay silent, but the pain of your closeness to them screams inside me. Your touch on them is a silent betrayal I never learned to fight or forgive. I was silent, but inside, the fire of jealousy burns with sacred fury and sorrow. Watching you with them is the quietest scream echoing in the chambers of my broken heart. My silence was my sanctuary. Now it's a prison watching you love someone else. I stayed silent, but every moment you spent with them shattered the peace I begged for. Your presence with them is a cruel silence, louder than any argument we never had. I tried to stay silent, but the weight of you choosing them is unbearable to hold. You smiled for them while my silence shattered like glass beneath your feet. I was silent, but your laughter with them drowned my soul's deepest prayers. Watching you with them, I'm a whisper, lost in the storm of your new love. I stayed silent, but inside, my heart screamed your name in a language you forgot. Your hands in theirs are a silent wound that bleeds in the quiet of my nights. I tried to stay silent, but jealousy is a language my heart speaks fluently.
ओंकारनाथ झेन जमीन पर घुटनों के बल लेटा हुआ था। उसकी आंखों में बेजान भाव था, मानो वह थक कर गिर पड़ा हो। ओंकारनाथ वू और ओंकारनाथ दी अचानक हुए घटनाक्रम से स्तब्ध रह गए। उन्होंने डरते हुए दुकान की तरफ देखा, अपने बड़े भाई को उठाया और जल्दी से पीछे हट गए। दुश्मन उनसे कहीं ज्यादा ताकतवर था। बेहतर था कि अतिरिक्त सैनिक बुला लिए जाएं। वे तीनों जमीन को धूल से भरकर भाग गए। बड़े काले कुत्ते ने घृणा से उनकी तरफ देखा, अपनी जीभ निकालकर अपने खूबसूरत फर को चाटा, फिर घुरघुराया और वापस सो गया। राघव रूगे और बाकी लोग गली के बाहर पहरा दे रहे थे। ओंकारनाथ के 3 बर्बर लोगों द्वारा उस घिनौनी दुकान को तहस नहस करने का इंतजार कर रहे थे। हालांकि कुछ देर इंतजार करने के बाद उन्होंने देखा कि 3 नग्न आकृतियां दयनीय रूप से भाग रही हैं। उनमें से 2 ने अपने गुप्तांगों को लंगोटी से ढका हुआ था, इसलिए वे अभी भी ठीक थे। लेकिन बीच वाला क्या कर रहा था? वह अकेला क्यों था जो पूरी तरह नंगा था? सब एक दूसरे को देख रहे थे और एक दूसरे की आंखों में खौफ देख रहे थे। क्या बकवास है?
Towards me speaks louder than any confession I'd never made. My dear, silence was my refuge until I saw your hands in theirs and my soul cracked open. You laugh with them like I'm invisible, yet my heart screams in a silence only I hear. Watching you with them, I'm dying quietly, a ghost haunting memories we never made. I held my tongue. But jealousy isn't silent. It's a wildfire scorching every secret corner of me. Your touch on their skin echoes inside me, a cruel reminder of what I lost without a word. I tried to look away, but your closeness to them shattered the fragile peace I fought to keep. Silence was supposed to protect me, but it only amplified the roar of your absence. Each smile you gave them was a dagger I swallowed whole. Quiet pain with no escape. I stayed quiet because I loved you, but now my silence feels like betrayal to myself. Your laughter with them is a hymn I can't sing, my voice drowned in unspoken sorrow. The silence between us is louder than any argument, an abyss where my heart sinks alone. I'm watching you choose them, wordless, broken, a shadow trapped in my own stillness. The silence I kept was a cage. Watching you with them is the key turned slowly. I was the silence you ignored, the quiet ache behind every glance you gave someone else. My silent love became my fiercest wound as you slipped away into someone else's arms. You don't see the silence in my eyes. They scream everything I never dared to say. I tried to disappear, but your joy with them made my soul scream in quiet agony. I watched you belong to them while I held my breath, fading in a silence you broke. My silence was a prayer. Watching you with them became my darkest unspoken curse. The quiet between us grew toxic while your smiles with them turned venomous to me. I was the unsaid truth, drowning in silence, watching you weave new stories without me. Your stories without me. Sacred silence I held like fragile glass. I tried to stay silent, but the sight of you with them shattered my whole world. My quiet heart cracked open, watching you trade our love for someone else's whispers. I whispered your name in silence, but you only heard the noise of their laughter. The silence I kept was a wound you never saw, now bleeding with every glance at them. Watching you with them is a slow burning grief, wrapped in a quiet I forced myself to keep. I was the silent storm raging inside, while you danced with someone else in the light. Silence felt like safety until you became a stranger, speaking only to someone else. I held my silence tight, but seeing you with them stole every breath I had left. Your closeness to them is a cruel lullaby that steals the silence I once cherished. I tried to stay silent, but every moment you shared with them screamed in my bones. The silence between us wasn't peace. It was the loudest sound of you leaving me behind. I hid my pain in silence, but your smile with them tore that veil to pieces. I stayed quiet because I loved you too much. Now that silence feels like a curse. Your hands in theirs broke the sacred vow of silence I made to protect my heart. Watching you with them is a sacred wound wrapped in a quiet I never escaped. I was silent, hoping you'd see me. Now I only see you disappear into someone else's world. My silence was a confession I never dared voice. Now it's the void where you live with them. The silence I kept was my last breath. Watching you with them is my first scream. I tried to stay silent, but my soul shatters each time you laugh with someone else. Your silence spoke louder than any word when you chose them over the love I offered. I was the quiet in your storm. Now you found calm in someone else's arms. Watching you with them is like reading a story where I am the unspoken tragedy. I stayed silent to save you, but all I saved was a broken version of myself. Your touch on them burns a silent fire I can't extinguish, no matter how hard I try. Silence was my armor, but you pierced it with every moment you spent with them. I tried to stay silent, but the ache of watching you with them robs me of peace. You left me silent in the ruins of a love that once spoke in endless whispers. Watching you with them is a sacred silence filled with the noise of my shattered dreams. I kept quiet because my love was fragile, but your betrayal screamed louder than words. My silence was a prayer for us. Watching you with them is the answered heartbreak. I was silent, but inside I was screaming. Your choice was a silent death to me. You took my silence as consent, but it was my breaking point, bleeding unseen. Watching you with them is a cruel melody that plays on repeat in my quiet mind. My silence was sacred. Your laughter with them desecrates what I held most dear.